Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today we're going to be unboxing Senjutsu. Long-time listeners to the podcast will remember when we spoke about this initially. This is a Kickstarter that funded quite some time ago. It got delayed. I've actually had this for a while, just for the record. I just haven't opened it yet because I've kind of had my attention elsewhere. But I'm really keen to get in and actually have a look at this. I've deliberately avoided any other unboxings for this. I've deliberately avoided trying to get opinions from other people because I've been trying to save my experience for when it actually happened in person. So, today we're going to be having a look at this. We're going to get down, we're going to have a look at all of the details. Let's see if this is as good as it looked in the Kickstarter. First things first, this is a big box. Very weighty too. And when I say big, I mean literally this is huge. Nice view on the back of everything that comes in it. So this includes a lot of things that would normally be sold separately because this is the Kickstarter version that comes with everything in the box. Artwork on the front is phenomenal, but to be fair, this is also artwork that we saw in the Kickstarter as well. The sides are fairly standard. It's just kind of the same thing all the way around. This outer artwork is actually a sleeve, and that was not obvious. So looking over the actual box itself, I think it's pretty safe to say that this artwork is phenomenal. I think I prefer this over the already beautiful artwork that was on the sleeve. Like, I really like this. Sides of the box are still the same, because obviously the sleeve has come off. It may have been different under... Oh, no! I stand corrected. This side, the artwork actually continues over the back. Oh, sorry, over the side. And then on the back, we are slightly different, but it's essentially the same thing. Start with a lovely piece of artwork. That's pretty much all this is. It's just a piece of artwork. All the sleeves that I will need. Rulebook we'll have a look at a little later. Solo campaign book. Ring binded, which is quite nice. Another solo campaign book. Why is there two of them? So, the red one is the campaign setup and gameplay guide. And it basically, the rest of this is just telling you how to use the contents. The blue one, on the other hand, is for your expansions. So to answer my own question, you're using this book first, followed by this one. This is the neoprene mats. We'll have a closer look at those in a moment. We're getting into our tokens. So I'm going to move this box out of the way and we're going to start looking at things individually. So first things first. A nice, decent, chunky card. Maybe not the thickest that I've seen, but it's certainly nice. It should stand up. If I just pop out this, for example, it's a decent thickness. Look at the detail of the artwork. The artwork itself is quite gorgeous, honestly. Really nice. Cherry blossoms obviously is a must for the Japanese setting. It's very, very, very traditional. And this is obviously going to become a more 3D element once you put it all together. The back is just more of the same, essentially. It's just the other side of everything. These 3 rocks here will then show you what you found underneath. The other side of the boats is the boats being burned. And 3 question marks will then have the reveal on the back. Everything else is pretty much the same. Standees, more terrain, larger boat here. Boat has now fallen through the ice. Standees are 2-sided, which is nice. Sometimes you get standees where it's the same artwork on both sides. I do like this. More card terrain, more of the board. Again, very, very nice. And then we get the actual board itself. So, the actual board itself is quite nice. Very, very chunky card, which is beautiful. That's definitely good to see. Artwork is honestly phenomenal. It's really nice. If I turn it around, you can get to see the other side. Nice ruins. The other side is just black. Folds up nice and neatly. I don't have my tape measure with me to show you in person, but if I use this as an example, this is a 5-inch measurement. So it's roughly around 10 inches square. All right. First layer. We have lots and lots and lots of cards. We got our standee tokens here. More sleeves, because obviously there is a lot of cards in this. I'm not going to go through all of the cards today. I think we can see what the cards are, and they are explained on the Kickstarter. These tokens have some nice weight to them. I think these might be metal. So yeah, these are nice chunky metal coins. Really, really nice design on them. I think I've got it upside down. So it looks to be like a lotus by the look of it. On the back is exactly the same symbol. So lovely metal coin. Really, really love that. So yeah, again, metal coins. These are actually in 2 parts. They are very clearly designed to go together. I would obviously have to read the rules to know exactly why this is. Really, really lovely detail on this, actually. It's really, really nice. The token itself is kind of a coloured version of what we were just looking at. A little bit of bleed through here on the yellow. It might have been, it probably could have done with another layer. The yellow that they've used on this is very, very thin by the look of it. It's not actually, I would argue that this should have had another coat, or they should have used a higher quality paint, because you can still see the darker metal underneath it. It's the only one that you really have that issue with, though. The rest of the pigments are all nice and strong. The blue in particular is really nice. Red, perhaps a little bit. Certainly not like the yellow. Really, really nice. Really, really high premium feel to these. So, looking at the actual contents of the box, this is the game board itself, or these are the game board itself. as are the larger ones that we saw on the tokens. The larger mat is a castle board for scenarios that require it. So there's different sizes to the game depending on the scenario that you choose. So that's the cardboard version of the mat. It's represented really nicely. There's no real bleed issues with the mat or anything, which you do see on these cotton printings occasionally, but they're certainly not cheaped out on this at all. I would actually argue that the neoprene does look better, which is what you should be expecting. And on the other side, you get the other game board. So it's dual layered and fell out as I was doing it. Literally exactly the same size. Again, colours are really good on this. Neoprene mat does look better, which again is what you should be expecting anyway. Second layer has a bunch of cards and sleeves. This is going to take quite some time to sleeve. But I think what everybody really wants to see are the minis. We're going to start with the minis that was on the first layer though. So the minis are all held together nicely, as you would expect from a board game. There's none of this loosey-goosey. Everything's held really nice and tightly in place. If I shake this, there's no problems with anything rubbing against each other and the paint coming off. And yes, this is the other part of this. Everything has been pre-washed so that you get all of that detail nicely. You could certainly take this further, but for a board game, this does feel really nice and premium. So, starting with this lovely lady. Like I said, everything in this is pre-washed. So it's been washed rather heavily, which may or may not be to everybody's taste. The thing I actually really do like this though. It really does show off the detail in the sculpts. These are like board game quality minis. So like it is slightly bendy and everything as you would expect. But it's really, really nice. You could probably give this a bit of a dry brush is probably what I would recommend. If you want to build it up even further, it probably could have done with a dry brush over it, but that was not promised. All they said that they were going to do is like prime them and wash them so that it was not just bare plastic. I really like this, honestly. It feels premium. And for those among us that are painters, we can certainly do more with this. And it means that we don't have to prime them first. I like what they're doing, honestly. Next up is this lovely gentleman who's about to pull his sword out and slice somebody in half, hopefully. I think the wash actually looks even better on this one. There's kind of like an almost semi-gloss to where it's pulled in the miniature. Because, I mean, you can tell that this was done on a production line. It's not been done. If somebody was to do this themselves, you probably could get better detail out of this. But you can't expect that sort of detail from a production line. The sculpting is really nice. We have 3 of these rocks. Hang on. Yep, we have 3 of these rocks, so I'm only going to show one off because they're all kind of the same. Wash doesn't show off on this one quite as nicely, just because it's all kind of flat surfaces, so it's all pulled in places. This is definitely one that I think would do nicely with a bit of a heavy dry brush. And we have 4 of these. Details are pretty much identical, but they've been done, again, in the same sort of wash. It's actually got some nice heft to it. It's still the same material, but they are... I can't think what these are called, but it's the pins that you throw on the ground. Temple, type, terrain. Really, again, really nice. Everything's on the hexes because that's what the game works on. So, probably wouldn't be very useful for a game like Bushido. Unless you're happy to ignore the fact that it's on a hex, of course. I am pulling these out of the box somewhat in order, somewhat random. This one in particular, I think, is one that would lend itself really nicely to being painted, because there's so much detail in that armor that you just love to have color on. Another fairly traditional pose. Oddly enough, ooh, the sword's very bent on this one. It's the first one I've really seen problems with. To be fair, when it comes to the plastic used in board games, you should be expecting bends like this. It is the norm. But it's interesting that the pose has his eyes blocked, so we can't see his enemy, right? I mean, I guess he's just barely looking over the blade, maybe? We actually have a second one of these, so I'm not going to show this one off too long. It's exactly the same as the first one that we looked at. We have another samurai. Sword's a bit straighter on this one. Big and chunky, though. Lovely detail. Really, really do love that detail. And we have two of the bamboo plants. Honestly, much better detail than I was expecting. I mean, the card terrain is nice and all, but obviously this is nicer. I'd almost say this is better than it has any right to be. And we also have two of these wagons. I was originally holding it up like this, and I was about to say it's some sort of throne. And then I realised I was holding it the wrong way. Oh, I'm an idiot, apparently. Really, really simple, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. We got two of those as well. Moving into the second layer, we start with this, I want to say monk. It's kind of the impression I have from him. He's either a monk or he's a beggar of some kind. I want to say he's a monk, though, personally. Just the vibe that I'm getting. We have a very good boy. Look at how good of a boy this is. He's a good boy. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Where the wash is pulled around the bottom, it's actually a little bit sticky on the bottom. It's the first one I've noticed that with, though. I would say that's because this has actually been washed and left in the pool of wash. This one has been rushed really badly. Yeah, that's definitely negative marks on that. Bit of a smaller wagon. Oh, it's a pram. Oh, he's a little baby. Lovely little detail. No stickiness on that one. And some little bells. I think they're bells. They look like bells to me. Moving into the characters, we have this lovely ninja with their... I'm not actually sure what sort of weapon that is. They do have a lovely little dagger there as well. Some of the wash on this is... You can definitely see on some of them how much the factory has rushed these. Again, like this has been done on a production line. So you can't be expecting the painting on this to be as good as what you would do at home. It's meant to be so that you can get it out of the box, straight onto the table, and it's all you have to do. For those of us that want to get more detail out of this, then, well, we still have that option. And like I said before, we don't have to prime anything. Half of the work's already been done for us. Big, chunky, really nice. Somebody's going to go home with a headache after they get that across the head. Lovely detail in the beard, or the mustache rather. Another sword master. A little bit too heavy on the wash around the face. Or is that because it's been Zenithiel highlighted? Another warrior with a bit of a unique weapon. A few bends in this, but I think they're deliberate by the look of it. Lovely detail. Dual swords. Lovely. Lovely detail. Female warrior with a bit more of a unique weapon. This kind of feels like it's been thrown together rather than being an expert build. I'm sure that some of these weapons have names, but unfortunately I don't know what they are. But I don't know, it kind of, this feels more DIY, which is a touch I like. It may not be intended to be that way, but I'm not meaning it as a criticism. I like the fact that that's how it looks. Kind of feels like that it started as a farmer tool and has been co-opted, which is how a lot of these weapons came about. Love the dynamic nature of this. That is really nice how they've actually sculpted it to be animated. That's really cool. I really like that. That might be my favourite so far. Another one that's been washed a little bit too heavily though. Two of these boats, obviously terrain. Both of them identical. A little bit more of a stoic pose on this guy. He's kind of a guard that at the gates. Another one that's sticky on the bottom because of the way that it's been done. And then finally, one last. He's got the heroic rock. Clearly this is the best person in the box because he's standing on a rock. Alright. Having a look at the miniature. Having a look at the rule book. One thing I just want to, looking through the miniatures, they are really nice sculpts and stuff, but I'm not happy with how they've been washed. Whilst I recognise, and I don't expect washes that's done in a factory to have the same level of care that you would get at home, but at the same time, my fingers should not feel sticky and horrible the way that they do. That's just not been done good enough. That's not these guys' fault, it's the factory's fault, but there should have been... I would hope that the samples they got turned out better than the ones that I've received, because the ones that I got are not okay. But looking through this, oh, nice looking start. Very, very clear, lovely layout. Oh, there we go. So we're getting a nice look at the components. Focus tokens, Kame rings and tokens. Everything's laid out really nicely. I mean, I don't know how clear it is that it's been written, but it certainly looks very nice. Definitely nothing negative to say about this rulebook so far. The background is really nice. Feels very, very, very thematic in the way that it's been done with the traditional art style. And it's... you can see the art style in the background, but it's faded enough where it doesn't distract from what you're reading. It's really, really nice. Yeah, no, definitely. Very, very happy with this. Couple of points of sticking, which is not unusual. Obviously, I don't like that, but there's not much I can really do about it. All of them are going to be doing this, unfortunately. There's something sticky on the inside of it. It looks like, I suspect that it wasn't dry properly when they've stapled it together. Thankfully, it's only the very, very center that's done that and not where any text or anything is. Character signature decks. And an icon reference sheet. Every board game should have something like this. And I mean every board game should have some reference sheet on the back of its rulebook. All of them, without exception, should have it. I'm only going to have a brief look at the first of the campaign books. I'm not going to look through both of them because obviously the other one has stuff for later in the game, and I'd like to avoid spoilers. Not that I'm reading this, but I just kind of want to... Oh, that is nice. I just don't want to ruin anything for myself, basically. Oh, that is nice. This is very, very premium. Oh, definitely. I love this. This might be the best looking campaign book I've seen. I'm not going to go any further in that. I think the artwork speaks for itself. This is phenomenal. So that's Senjutsu. I'm still very excited. Obviously, I haven't played it at this point. I'm still very excited. I'm still very happy that it's finally here. I do say there were some massive delays on this. Mainly, there were some delays on this, but then the delivery to Australia was not handled very well. And I'm just acknowledging that. It wasn't handled very well. But it is here, and that's the main thing. Delays in Kickstarters happen. It's just a fact of life. Having a miniature company try to do the whole we're going to prime it and wash it thing it's not something that's done very often, and I think we can see a few reasons why companies don't do it very often, because pre-painting miniatures is not something that's done very well frequently. And this is not pre-painted. It's just highlighted. It's just washed. It's not even highlighted. And I can't say that the miniatures have been washed very well. I mean, all of the details are there, and from that side of things, yes, awesome. But there's pools of wash that's stuck underneath the miniatures that make some of them sticky. My fingers still feel horrible from them. At the very least, I'm going to have to varnish them before I use them. I can't have my friends having their fingers feel like this after playing a board game. That's just not okay. So I guess I've got mixed feelings here. The quality of the components, with the exception of the way that those miniatures have been left, is really nice. The way that it's been laid out is beautiful. But there needed to be more care put in to the miniatures. They haven't been handled very well. Which is a shame, because it's one of the main reasons most people are buying this. And the miniatures are lovely to look at. They're not very nice to hold. So, all I can do is be honest, right? Still excited to play it. But, yeah, I'm going to have to try and do something about them before I use them now.